I'm not doing the whole cut thing. So we're just once the stream starts, it's just kind of going at that point because I am a loser and don't have my little stream thing with me. So yeah, that's a thing. Right. Want to kick it off? I guess we should start. Did we start? Did we start recording yet? We started recording, right? Audio hijack. Double check. Yep, recordings are going. Yes, episode 166. You can kick it off if you want. And not just your typical beta. This is like a Google beta, like years and years and years of beta. That's right. Until we decide it really isn't worth the effort anymore, and we just take ourselves off the air. How's it going, Thomas? Oh, well, great. You should have a lot to talk about. Oh, geez. Well, this might be a very short show. Wow. And knowing your line, who said this? Oh no! All right, you want to go over to YouTube real quick? Yeah, yeah. I guess I'll start messing around with that once you get over there. Daryl, are you able to hear me? Are you? Is that the thing? Sounds like you can hear me. Can't hear PFY. Okay. All right. Let's give this spend some time with this. All right. The last time we did this, I just had to put you on my channel and take
Yeah.
John off my channel. Okay.
Check,
Start
check. One,
talking
two.
now.
Check, check.
Yes, I can hear Showcom. Perfect audio, actually. Well, thank you, Dan. I can hear PFY now. Although I guess he's watching the same delay you're watching, so. Got it. He said got it.
There we go.
That's so weird. I wonder why it does that. Like, how does that's weird. That's
There's
so
got to
weird.
be some manual or something that explains all the ways in which we've broken OBS.
How we're doing pretty much everything wrong.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to switch back over to that Ecamm. I paid for Ecamm, and we used it one time, and then we decided to go with OBS for and I don't even remember why, but and OBS has new release out. It's not they don't have a Mac build yet, but there's a new release on Linux and Windows, OBS 24. Here we're talking about this stuff, and it's probably all going to get cut out. So, do you want to start over? I mean, you don't have to do the intro over. You just want to start talking about your work stuff again, and we'll.
Sure. So I've been working for the last week and a half or so on a project that involves nesting uh, price points inside of a group of price points and still accounting for the existing price points that we were selling and using the same sort of structure for it. It's been a very interesting process, and there were at least 2 times where I spent a couple hours going down one path and then ended up having to rewind and rethink something. So it's been an interesting one, but keeps me busy. I like being busy. I like coding. I mean, I like when I'm busy and I like when I have stuff to do that's got a clear definition to it.
That's one of the fun things about development, right? Is like it's always a puzzle. Like if you're cruising through and you're probably bored, it's when you hit these little puzzles that you have to code your way out of. That's where the excitement starts.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes you get those Jenga functions where you've stacked things up so high to fit into a single function where you've got a billion filters and this and that, and you go, you know, this whole thing's sort of falling over if I push it too lightly. So I need to refactor this now.
Well, we
So
have a couple things to talk about. Um, didn't cut you off there, but there's a couple things we need to address before we get too deep in the show. First thing, if you haven't noticed, I'm back at my home base, my home location.
I
Not
did notice that.
I am not broadcasting from the office. I Turns out we do have an HR department, and CTOs can be suspended. No, no. I've slowly been building up my little home office again. As time goes on, bought myself another webcam and stuff, and I just decided I'm like, hey, I'm gonna broadcast from home today. I think I have all the parts. I have this cute little mini Yeti. Look at this thing. It's like a baby Yeti. It's small, and so the little baby Yeti is just sitting here now. Here, according to Daryl in Discord, he says my audio is actually pretty good. So,
It is. It's quite good.
and he said it in a very surprising manner. Perfect audio, actually. So he's a long time listener. But speaking specifically of long time listeners, as a matter of fact, let's do that. We have really been doing our Patreons a disservice. We have
Well,
slowly,
in what way? Because I can think of several ways we've done anyone who gives us money for doing this a disservice.
well, we have been slowly growing our Patreon list, and we almost hardly ever recognize them. And the one thing we said we were going to spend the money on, which was putting together an intro for the show, we still haven't actually done that.
Well, and the lanyards. We got the lanyards out, but
Well, so that's why I wanted to bring this up. We have several new Patreons. Not only do we have several new Patreons, but we have several who have been with us long enough where they have achieved their prize levels or their reward level. So I have a list of, I did a quick look through, I believe four that I owe, assuming they're all in the US, all in the continental US, that I owe lanyards and stickers to. So I will be getting those out to you guys. I'll send
we
you
can call that
guys.
5 actually because I still never got my lanyard.
Oh, which one didn't you get?
The
You
lanyard,
never got you
the
never got
mini
a
lanyard.
PHP Ugly?
I never sent one out for me.
Oh, that's right. I'll bring yours to DC.
Ah, that makes sense. That works.
I'll bring you a bunch of swag to DC. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. We appreciate it. It it, it is very rewarding to see the appreciation you guys give us. I mean, thanks. If really, I'd love to hear from some of you in the Patreon system. If you have some ideas on how we can show our appreciation, uh,
Do
let
you need
us
us to
know
record
because
less? Do you need us to record shorter episodes or less frequently?
maybe pay for talent. Maybe that's the direction you like us to go. But yeah, shit. I mean, I just couldn't. I mean, they're not all $2. I mean, they're like, matter of fact, the $2 level is our lowest level, and that's the one we have the fewest people on.
Huh.
It's just I don't know what to say. It's overwhelming. And Buttery Crumpet has been our top pledge from the beginning. Like he was the first one in there. He's still sticking with us. And even though he's over in Japan, was it?
Yes.
Uh, I think he's donated enough where we can send him some swag. But man, it is just it's incredible. I just don't know what to do. So I have uh, I need to go through and see who I sent things to and who I didn't send things to. I think I know where the line is cut off at, but I'll have to double check that. And yeah, just thanks again to everybody who's contributing. I mean, obviously we don't beg for it. It was kind of a goof at first, and but we do really super appreciate it. And like I said, at some point we're going to do something with it. Hopefully to make the show better, and hopefully something that you all can appreciate as well. So again, if you guys have any ideas, if you have any ideas, let me know. I'd love to show our appreciation back to you. So thanks again for everybody supporting us on Patreon. It's been surprising. I is the only word I have for it. So thanks.
I think the other piece of news for us is that we won't be recording the next 2 weeks.
Okay, that's
Is
news
that,
for me.
or do we have no? We're recording next week, but not the week after. Well, we're going to
Oh yeah, you're right. So even
Virginia.
if we can definitely record next week. Next week's the 10th. Even the following week. So the following week's the 17th, and we're in Virginia the 22nd through the 25th. So that puts a lot of pressure on us to edit the 17th.
Are you staying an extra day?
No, I mean the conference is the 23rd and 24th, so we're leaving the 25th.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think
So
we
you're on
leave.
the
I think
same.
we leave in the morning, the 25th. I wanted to say a day because I wanted to go to that NPR um, tour. Did you hear about this? We talked about this on this show, right?
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah. So uh, I guess it's a. So we're talking about attending PHP World. That's the conference we're talking about attending. It's a conference that we've been going to myself. I think I've been to like the last two or three. And actually, no, this is my second world. I'm sorry, this is my second world. I've been going to tech before that. Um, but I just found out that it had become a regular thing that at the end of tech, NPR hosts a 1 day tech tour sort of thing where they invite the tech industry to come in and take a tour of NPR, answer questions, just have a little meet and greet and talk to everybody. And I found out that this has been a regular thing. This year, the people at PHP World made mention of it in one of the emails. I just happened to catch wind of it. So unfortunately, I'm not there. So that would be on the 25th. I'm not going to be there for that. And when I had mentioned to Oscar, the editor in chief of PHP Architect, I said, well, next year I know to stay an extra day. And of course, he said, well, we can't guarantee it'll happen next year. So, but basically what happens is that the PHP Architect they do their PHP World Conference, and then this NPR group does a tour like right after the conference. And it just happens. I guess it just happens to align like that. So if you're going to that conference and you happen to be in the area or you happen to be staying yesterday, you might want to do that. But to answer your question, so back
Well,
to
yeah,
what we
and
were
and
talking about.
I'd love if you guys could reach out on Twitter too and let us know if you're going to be at the conference because we'd love to meet up with some listeners and hang out, do something.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll bring stickers. I'll bring you lanyards. Apparently, I owe Thomas some of that stuff, so I'll bring them with me to the conference. And if you run into us, if you meet us, and you're interested in any of that swag, let us know, and we will share. We will definitely share. I'll also be representing the PHP Architect podcast. I will also be representing the PHP Architect podcast, which John Congdon and myself do with the editor in chief Oscar. It's funny. I can't just call him Oscar. I always have to call him editor in chief Oscar. It's like in my contract or something. I don't know. My brain just works that way.
You
The
don't
editor
follow
in chief.
contracts.
So I should have some stickers for that podcast as well. So hunt me down. I've been told I'm pretty easy to spot in a crowd once I talk. Have I told you? Every time I go to Laracon, somebody's like, "I saw you, and I was wondering if you were this person." Then I heard you talk. I'm like, "Yep, that's Shokum."
Yeah.
But
I
so
don't know.
back
I don't know
to
if that'll work for me. I have a pretty
our question. All right, so we definitely record next week. Next week's only the 10th.
yeah.
The following week, the 17th. I don't know. I mean, I'm up. I can go either way with it. Let's play it by ear. But you're right. I definitely think we'll skip the 24th because we will be in Virginia.
Well, we might have a local recording, a little get together. Who knows?
Well, I tell you what. I don't know if I have the authority to do this, but we are 100% recording PHP Architect podcast, and we're working on the format. It sounds like we're gonna have just a bunch of people walking in and out. It's just gonna be like a bunch of 5-10 minute segments. I know some people there. I could probably get you in on one of
One of those
those
little
talks.
segments.
Yeah, yeah. If nothing else, you can just like sit in the back of the room. Just sit
Just
back there.
say, hey, I'm on a podcast with these guys too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. We'll figure something out. So yeah,
So, uh, I've got a question for you.
shoot.
Um, have you used Laravel 6 much yet?
Yes, I am. I am full throttle Laravel 6 right now. Like our biggest application, I've already migrated to Laravel 6. I have all these little satellite apps that I need to get migrating. I already migrated our little community SDPHP website to Laravel 6. I am full board Laravel 6 right now.
So, how are you liking the biggest or the most obvious change?
What's that? Denver?
No, the most obvious one.
Most
The
obvious
new
change.
500 error reporting engine.
Um uh I don't have much of an opinion of it. I'm you know I don't know. I actually don't see a lot of errors, fortunately. So
What?
haven't haven't come across it a whole lot. Uh, I hear there's some bells and whistles, and there's a SAS that ties into it and all this, but yeah, I don't get too excited about error pages.
Well, it's called Flare,
No,
and
the SAS is called Flare. The error page is called geez, what's it called? Injection or something.
oh
Right?
yeah,
It's
injection engine or something.
yeah. I know it starts with the I. I forget exactly what it's called. Yeah, but the SAS
Ignition.
for it is ignition. That's it. There you go. Welcome to the team. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. There is a SAS called Flare that I think Freck and Marcelo, yeah, Marcelo, right? They put together.
Yeah, so the company the Flare that created Ignition introduced DDD. Did you see this at all? The
Domain driven does.
dump die debug. So right now we have
Mm,
DD. we have dump and
Mhm.
die. And I use that for most of my debugging because I don't have the patience to
Is it dump
keep
and die
working.
or is it die and dump? I see. I always
It's
say,
dump
hey,
and die.
die,
If you
die.
die, if you die before you dump, then you don't dump anything out. You died already.
No, you die. You kill the application, then dump out what's left. Die and dump. Right? It's like die, kill the application, and dump it out. But I think you're right. I think it is dump and die, which to me, I don't know. It seems like it should be die and dump. It seems like you should kill the application and then look at its remains. Okay, we're
Well,
getting off track. I'm sorry.
they they've introduced dump die debug, which gives you the standard nicely formatted output, but it also gives you debug information about where you were in the code, how you got to that point. It's the same kind of idea as a stack trace combined with the dump and die. So you get a lot more information out of it than you would normally get from just dying and dumping a variable.
Hmm.
And it's pretty nice.
Okay. I take it you've been experiencing it a lot lately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's,
So
part of my programming process is throwing a DD in just to make sure I'm in the right place and calling the right stuff.
so is this something you put in your code? You put DDD and then
Yeah. Yeah, so it's
hmm.
just use it instead of DD and it gives you the full stack trace style dump instead of just the nicely formatted dump.
And of course, DDD is also domain-driven design. So when you search
Yeah, it doesn't make
Laravel
anything confusing.
DDD, yeah, when you search Laravel DDD, it's like jumps right out at you. Uh, I don't even see anything about this. Oh, here we go. Introducing here. Freck has a post about it. Let's take a look at this together, shall we? Introducing DDD, a new global helper for Laravel. If you're using Ignition, and you probably are if you're using Laravel 6, you know you have access to new helper function that helps you debug code. Interesting. Well, that's like I just discovered. I would like to see this in action. Does he have an example of this? Yes, he does. Perfect. Uh, have you ever dropped into Tinker and then type in edit? You
No.
can launch Vim within Tinker and edit out
Why would
your
I do that?
command.
Then I can't even quit Tinker.
No. You edit out your commands. So if you have like these long, complex commands, you don't have to do that like one shot. You like type it all out, and then you can make sure everything's correct. And then when you hit quit, it's there in your screen. It's kind of cool. I just learned that trick. I was not aware of that. Okay, so DDD today we're very excited. Now it's a new global helper. This is back in September. Oh, this is 30th of September. So this just released,
Yeah, and I don't
right?
think it's even public yet. I think you have to explicitly request the beta branch of Ignition.
Now, if you, oh, you got to be kidding me! Really? What a pain in the ass that would be. Why would they announce it if it's not in the Laravel
Oh no,
6
it
core
is.
yet?
It is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you just
So
have to
now
update your
DDD
required dev for it.
dump this one. Now when you hit that code in your browser, this is what you'll see. Debug, DDD helper. The DDD helper will help you help. DDD will dump the data, show ignition, and exit. This gives you the power of DD combined with all the great features of ignition. Okay. Okay, so I see. So it essentially gives you a nice like the same error page you would get with the same format you'd get with the error page in a dump situation. So, yeah, that's kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, you can still do a stack trace. Okay, I would use this. I think. Yeah, I can see using this for
Yeah,
sure.
it's pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. How'd you stumble upon that?
I don't know, man. It's just all these feeds I get. I get news from everywhere, all over my face, and I have to sort it out throughout the week.
just you wake up, you get blobs of Laravel news dripping from your feed.
Yep.
Let's talk about this for a second, okay? Because it is kind of a topic I have that I wanted to bring up, and I'm a fan of this stuff, right? I I I not only do I absolutely love coding, I love everything about it. And I enjoy the friendships I build up and all this. And in the Laravel ecosystem specifically, I have taken like a certain amount of pride in like you know identifying all the talent that's out there and kind of keeping an eye on it. I mean, and I do this for a very real, very business reason. I like to know who's out there. I like to know who's doing what, and I always feel like I'm pretty good at it. Now, there's always the Laravel core group is very clicky. We've talked about it on the show before. They've even embraced
Hmm?
this with their whole elite status. They think they're
Yes.
they're smug and being ironic about it. And whatever. I've given up caring about it. When, like I said, once I realized that they weren't trying to build so much of a community as an ecosystem, I'm fine with whatever they want to do. But with that said, I've always felt like I've been pretty good at spotting other people who may not be in that inner circle doing good stuff. Um, an example of that, well, I got several. I mean, my Canadian buddies, the stuff Sean does at Larachat.
Yep.
Uh, I mean, that guy worked hard to establish a very community driven, information sharing, open, welcoming group, and he gets very little recognition for it, especially now. I mean, it's like you almost never hear about Chat anymore, or Lara Slack anymore. Um, and he's still there. He's still grinding away. He doesn't get anything out of it, except ignored, and he grinds away at it. We talked about again another good friend of the show, Matt Lance, who runs the Laravel Collective. Occasionally, you'll hear about the Laravel Collective, but doesn't really get the appreciation I feel like he deserves for keeping these packages going. We have a local developer here, Tony Lee, who has Dev Dojo, which is a very similar site to Laracast. The guy makes these great videos. He creates these great packages. He created one of the better admin panels for Laravel that Nova went up against. He's created several packages. Full disclosure: Tony Lee, Matt Lance are both Patreon supporters of this show, so they're not paying me to say this stuff. They're just how I feel. I've known these people for a long time. I've watched what they've done, and there's several other people out there very much like him that sometimes they're out on the fringes. Sometimes they're pushing a little bit more into the mainstream of Laravel, but they hardly ever get the recognition. Um, it's very seldom do I get blindsided by somebody. Like somebody says, "Hey, look at what this person's doing," and I'm like, "Holy crap! What is this? Who is this person?" Dude, this happened to me this week, and I think you're going to really appreciate this. I stumbled across a YouTube channel. I guess it's a website as well, called Coder's Tape. This person, I don't know if it's one person. I don't know if there's a couple people. The one person who I had to do a little digging around, and the one person I'm pretty sure who does the videos and who's behind most of this is Victor Gonza- Gonzalez. Gonzalez. Victor Gonzalez. Um, He has a YouTube channel called Coder State. If you are a Laravel developer who has been developing for some time, check out this guy's channel. He has some of the absolute best advanced Laravel tutorials. Uh, he was doing, of course, I'm going to talk about him, and I don't have his YouTube channel open. Let me open it up real fast. That way I can share it with you guys. Um, let's see here. I have been going through his videos now for the last couple days, and he does. Let's see. So he has a few series here. He has your basic Laravel stuff, Laravel for beginners. He has some Vue stuff, but he has Laravel 6 Advanced. He talks about service containers, advanced view composers, polymorphic relationships. My personal favorite coding pattern, um, which is uh, the repository pattern. I'm trying to get this bigger on the screen, but doesn't. There it goes.
So I still
There
don't
we
like the
go.
repository pattern.
I love the repository pattern, and screw you for not knowing what you're talking about. But this he has a whole series on test-driven Laravel. These are, I'm you know, heaven forbid, we would never say poorly of the Don himself, the Godfather, Jeffrey Way. Hands down, he has his thing going on. But I have found myself, a lot of people turn me on to Laravel tutorials and people who are making them. And a
Is
lot of
that a
times
is
I
that a
will
compliment when they do that?
you
Hey,
really should
you should
watch
check
this
out some
person.
Laravel tutorials.
Maybe you can learn a few things. But I usually go there and I'll watch a few and I'm like, I'll make a determination. Yeah, they know what they're talking about. That's actually how I one of the ways I got to know Tony better. Is I went to his site. I'm like, all right, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. I would definitely direct people to these tutorials, and a lot of times I stop watching them halfway through because so many of them are for beginners. These advanced tutorials, my goodness, they are really informative. I really want to get into some of his other courses. And again, I don't know if it's always the same person. And he definitely doesn't have the silky smooth sounds of the Jeffrey Way. But sometimes you need the rougher edges. But he's very very easy to understand, very clear spoken, much better speaker than I am for sure. Um, check out these videos, Thomas. I think you will definitely benefit from them.
Yeah, I'll have to check this out. I mean, I definitely need to look at some Vue tutorials.
Yeah. Oh, and in a piece of surprising events, um, when I wanted to, so preparing for the show, I wanted to make sure Dev Dojo was actually still online because there's nothing more embarrassing talking about how great this site was, and you go there and they're they're not there anymore.
There are many
Um,
more embarrassing things.
not only is it still online, and not only are they still making videos, but he would never admit it in public. Friend of the show, Michael Dorinda, actually has recorded a couple of videos for him. So the two latest videos on Dev Dojo were from Michael Dorinda, which
Nice.
I thought that was cool. I'm a fan of I'm a fan of the Aussie. I think he says nice things every now and then.
Yeah, we like him, but we would never, group him in with us for his sake.
No, he's definitely classier than that. So yeah,
Have
that was my little tangent. I'll
I
put
like it.
I'll put all that information in the show notes for anybody interested, including Dojo stuff. So I guess we should have started some show notes. That would have been a good idea. Oh, I got this. You can
Uh,
talk.
so we have some drama going on.
Okay.
Have you been
Does it
following
involve?
internals very much?
No, I run so hot and cold with that. I I start following it like religiously every day, just getting on that externals, especially now that they have that externals website. Um, and then I lose it again. So the short answer is no, I have not.
Internals has been completely chaotic. There's been so much fighting about what the future of PHP is, who owns the rights to PHP, who gets to make decisions and how decisions are made. And one of the frequent contributors, Zeev, published an RFC for preventing distractions from the internals group, which was basically an RFC that would shut down any dramatic change ever or discussion of dramatic change to the system. But it's been it's been chaos. People are questioning the RFC process. People are questioning who has authority to the name PHP. Uh,
Wow.
who has the rights to fork off PHP and make their own version, and it's
Well,
it's
it's open source. Anybody has that right.
well, they'll fight about it. Uh,
Okay.
it has calmed down in the last few days, from what I can tell, but it really was a mess for a while, for about 2 weeks. Um, and the last I've seen a mention of any of this sort of chaos is the 27th of September.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a quiet few days, but it really is interesting. I mean, to the point where Rasmus has had to get into things and say, "Hey, listen,
Really?
here's the license, here's how things are. Like, you guys can fight all you want about it, but here's the cold hard facts." And uh, it's it's been interesting. I really wish there was a breakdown outside of just the internals website, because there's a threaded internals website that you were referencing,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no one really blogging about this and breaking down what the conversations are and how they should be handled. um, but that's been pretty chaotic. And then today, or I'm sorry, yesterday, there's a bit of chaos at Stack Overflow. Have you seen any of that?
No.
Uh, so there is a an admin at Stack Overflow who was apparently fired, and or a moderator, and then I guess a bunch of other moderators started resigning in protest. Uh, there's also some issue with licensing changes. Um, there was a retroactive content license change that a lot of the moderators disagreed with and claimed might actually
License
be illegal.
license for license for what? You said Stack Overflow, right? That's what you said?
Yeah, the whole Stack Exchange system, actually.
Okay. License for what? What? I need more information, man.
It's hard to follow because the people who are talking about it on Stack Overflow, and it's getting a bit moderated. But the on the 5th, Stack Exchange said that they were moving to CCC by SA license, which is the share alike license.
Okay.
Um, I guess they're upgrading from the 3.0 license to the 4.0 license. Uh,
Okay.
the it's it's strange. A lot of moderators who paid employees uh, didn't like the change, didn't like not being consulted on the change because their work was under this license. It looks like one person was fired, and in response, 15 people resigned.
Wow. That's pretty serious.
Um,
And still, we don't have any understanding of. I mean, I'm trying to follow the story here, but I don't understand the drama. Like, what don't people like about a license that Stack Overflow is sounds like they're upgrading to from a license 3 to it's very disjointed story. I'm not sure I'm hearing enough to care about any of it. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
and a lot of this is under confidentiality agreements, so there's not a lot of new information. They just got a new CEO on the 24th. So I think people are upset about a lot of different changes coming from Stack Overflow, and it looks like a lot of people got upset about it and took action by just quitting. But
Okay, so first thing, be perfectly clear, has nothing to do with PHP. The drama that was going on with PHP internals, that was something completely different. Interesting topic though, and one I had thought to bring up a couple weeks back, and actually avoided it because it seemed like for a long time we were like, we it was perceived that we were Laravel bashing a lot, and we were just expressing a lot of our frustrations with a lot of things in the Laravel ecosystem. And like I said, I had changed a lot of my attitudes when I had come to some realizations. uh, and then I think of recent weeks, we have been pretty pro Laravel. I've been praising Vapor, very happy with the fact that they're on Zip Server, very happy with Laravel 6.
are
But
you proud to announce our new sponsor,
we have a sponsor?
Laravel?
What?
So we've been very pro Laravel because now they're giving us money.
Oh, no, no. Matter of fact, we give them a lot of money, right? I mean, I can't even tell you how many of Taylor's services DiegoDev pays for. We've actually seriously thought about becoming sponsors of the framework. Matter of fact, we had that conversation again this week. Of we don't know if there's a business benefit to it. We feel like maybe there would be, but not necessarily one that we particularly needed today. Um, but it's something. There is a avenue for us to go to become sponsors of the Laravel framework, and we continue to toy with that idea. We have sponsored Laravel conferences. We're a sponsor of Laravel AU. So that's we're definitely fan. I mean, again, we have a business right now because of Laravel. We made a decision early on to focus on Laravel development. We got a lot of clients, a lot of applications built on it, and now, for better or for worse, this is our world, right? So of course, we're going to strive to make it better. We definitely don't want to see it fail. But that was like always our biggest gripe with things like Simver. It's like, listen, this should be a no-brainer. Why is this such a pain point for us to embrace? Let's move this to Simver, and it finally did, and we're happy about that. But I saw very much like the Laravel elite, the the words that they'll throw around, and it's some internal joke that whatever. again, not a big fan of it, but they can have it, right? But I started to see, and again, I don't know the seriousness of it, but it did get me thinking. And of course, there are always people on the outside of the fringes who see these core people having these sort of conversations, whether they're serious about it or they're not serious about it, they latch on to them. And they have a tendency to get out of control. And this one didn't. As a matter of fact, it's finally died down. So I'm almost not wanting to talk about it. But it was brought up several times about how Laravel is bigger than PHP. Like Laravel is the language now. And
What?
oh man, I could point you to a lot of tweets from some people who are very high up in the Laravel community kind of expressing this. And I'm like, I hope they're being tongue in cheek. Like, they don't really have this, kind of thought, like, okay, you know, that was one of the ones what was the one where the pirates take over the tanker? He goes, I'm the captain now, and it
Yeah.
was his meme. He goes, "Where the language now? Where the language now?" It's like, man, somebody, Taylor really needs to go talk to like WordPress and Drupal because they've all been there, and
And
it's
Symphony.
yeah, it's like
He
a
can go.
pre-
He can go speak to the grave of Zend.
it's like appreciate who you are, embrace it. That's fine, but don't be cocky about it. Don't ever think you're bigger than the language. It's like just don't, and don't even betray that because even though you might be doing it tongue in cheek, the name
Unless
is
unless you're Ruby on Rails.
unless well that would, and
It's
I think that's the parallel that he's that no, I'm sorry, I'm not implying Taylor did any of this. But
no, no.
that's the parallel that a lot of people were trying to put out there is you don't think of Ruby, you think of Ruby on Rails. You don't think of PHP, you think of Laravel. But again, a lot of solutions have taken that role. I mean, even today, I mean, we're deep in the Laravel world. We see how much it has blown up over the years. But you step outside the Laravel world, there are still straight up people who think PHP is WordPress. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
I've
clients would come to us and we're like, well, we specialize in PHP. Oh, that means you would do a WordPress site for us. No,
not at all. Not in the slightest.
we actually specialize in Laravel. And but yeah, I mean, there's flat out people out there to this day who think WordPress is PHP, and to a degree, Drupal has a lot of those same luxuries of, they have a huge community, a huge Drupal ecosystem, and to a lot of businesses, Drupal is PHP. So again, I've seen it die down. I can dig up some of the tweets for you. I've seen it die down, fortunately, but I was like, oh,
I
I'm like,
I'd
oh,
like you to dig
please,
up some of
please.
those tweets because I'd like to respond to some of them.
Okay. I know a couple of people who I can pull out specifically, and I will hunt them down later tonight for you. I won't do it on the show. Um, but yeah, I will find some for you. As a matter of fact,
It's
I think one of them is the person you recently became a fan of. I can't be sure, but I think she posted one like that. Um, I think she did. So I'll see if she did, and I'll send you hers.
I'll
If you
have
want
to
to talk
see that.
shit, if you want to talk shit to somebody, you can talk to her. You
Hey, I like I said last week, you don't fuck with the women in the PHP community.
know. Mm. All right.
Some interesting news this week.
Oh, yeah.
We sort of stopped following it because it got just so depressing to follow. But net neutrality got a Court of Appeals ruling this week.
Oh no, I totally didn't see this.
It's kind of weird that it was big news for about 2 hours that day, and then Nancy Pelosi did something, I can't remember exactly what, started some kind of committee
He's the
or
president? I don't know.
re-
Just
something. Yeah, something else took the attention away from this. But the appeals court decided that the FCC, well, one of the judge's opinions was that the FCC's justification for reclassifying broadband is, quote, unhinged from the realities of modern broadband services. However, all of the three judges in the case agreed that the FCC did have the authority to do this, despite it being completely unhinged from reality, and that they weren't in the position to strip that authority away from the FCC. However, they did clarify that the FCC did not have the authority to restrict states' rights as far as net neutrality goes. So the FCC's net neutrality repeal, which tried to say that states couldn't institute net neutrality either, has been rejected. So right now, we're under a similar law to alcohol and cigarettes and that kind of thing, where it's the state's rights to define net neutrality, but the federal stance is there is no such thing. California and New York acted quickly. They are going to be instituting their own versions of net neutrality. I assume Colorado is going to be doing that as well, because Colorado is on the forefront of community-funded broadband. Mm-hmm. So outside of that, the next court to take this up is going to be the Supreme Court. And that's going to take a while.
Yeah, I think our country has a few other things on its mind right now to worry. They're not so worried about net neutrality anymore, unfortunately.
It does, unfortunately. Yeah, Bernie had a stints put in place, and Ginsburg is holding in by a thread. We're in a very interesting time. It's who knows what's going to be going on this time next week, because things are moving really fast in Congress right now.
It's bizarre. I know we made a pledge not to talk about politics on this show, but it's like the stuff that comes up, you're like, okay, well, at least he'll shut up for a while until all this blows over. Nope.
Literal opposite.
Complete. Not only that, he talks about it at a press conference.
Went to a press conference and said, hey, you know what? China, if you guys want to help out, you're welcome to too.
Exactly.
No, they're not. There's a specific line in the Constitution that says they're not.
I don't know what this world is I live in right now. Yeah, I know. It was amazing to me. Amazing. Oh man. All right, we can't.
Yeah. Well, and it's getting so polar. And I've asked my parents what happened when Nixon resigned, because he had to have had a similar situation where a lot of people were supporting him. How did they come to grips with the end result? And my parents just said, you know what? It's cognitive dissonance. When the whole thing was over, they walked away and said, I was never much of a fan of his anyways.
Really?
And no matter what they had said, no matter what they had actually said during his tenure, when the whole thing had blown over, they said, you know what? He wasn't such a good guy, and I was never really such a fan of him, but he was the only guy we had. And it's like, we're going to see that. We're going to see that again.
You know, what's really... See, we're going to start talking about politics. All right, where are we at with time here? Because we're not going to spend a lot of time. Take it
offline.
Yeah. I don't know what to do here, man. I just don't. Yeah. We're not talking about this shit.
So
Fuck that.
we'll move on to another ticket that I've had sitting in my queue for a while. Symfony has introduced the string object type.
What does a string object type do?
It casts strings the same way that that Java would, where you can interact with it as an object.
What's the benefit of that?
Uh, Chaining mostly. Instead of having nesting functions, you have chaining methods,
Uh-huh.
which is
Okay,
nice.
all right.
It clarifies the flow of the code much better. So if you have a string and you need to remove the tags from it, lowercase it, URL encode it, and then bcrypt it or whatever, then you just see it executed in that order.
Mm.
It's the pull request for it here is a new component for object-oriented strings management with an abstract unit system.
Mm.
So you can actually define strings as grapheme strings or binary strings.
Oh, oh,
Grapheme strings are Unicode, and binary strings are not.
okay.
But it gives you lots and lots of functions, lots and lots of tools.
Uh-huh.
It's very
Um,
interesting.
have you? I don't know why I thought about this, but have you done anything else with GraphQL?
You know, I haven't done much with GraphQL, but I am in the process of going through my MongoDB stuff. And that just ties in with GraphQL so well that I might end up proposing using GraphQL for that.
Mm, yeah, we have. We had this big Greenfield app, and I mean, days away from launch right now. It's really up to the client to say, okay, let's push this thing out. But it's like every day that goes by, I'm like, oh man, I really want to slip some GraphQL in there. I mean, we've already defined a bunch of endpoints for internal applications, and I'm just so itching. And it's not like we can't retrofit it, right? I mean, it's not like it changes anything about the logic of the underlying application.
It changes all the routing though. GraphQL only has one endpoint.
Well, right, but it's a GraphQL endpoint, right? So your other endpoints can actually live alongside it. That's kind
Right.
of my
You
point.
could,
It's
yeah,
like,
you could have your existing endpoints point to the GraphQL endpoint. Yeah.
right. So I'm like thinking. I keep thinking. It's like, man, I'm just like we have so much that we need to get done, and this is not something the client's asking for. Not even something that he really
I
they're even aware of. But man, I
More than
really
that,
would
I
love
would
to
say
get down there.
the learning curve for GraphQL is pretty sharp.
You think it is though? Really?
I having having actually created a GraphQL application
Uh-huh.
from scratch off of tutorials, it's really nice to have these plugins that'll tell you, hey, that query doesn't work or doesn't make sense. But those can only help you out sometimes. Sometimes the syntax just gets you wrong and it's just too different to wrap your head around quickly. And I had plenty of times where I didn't understand that a key had to be sent along, or I didn't understand that this has parentheses, but this doesn't have parentheses because it's requesting a method of a GraphQL object instead of a property of a GraphQL object. Like that stuff got real confusing real fast. And
Mm-hmm.
like I had 3 months to learn GraphQL in my spare time and write this application.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very fortunate because I had decided to write it for a presentation, and we had two bomb cyclones hit my city 2 months in a row on the day before the meetup.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Something
I
like all that,
really
yeah.
was working this thing hard, and I became pretty good at it, but I still would not say I'm good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I want to make a JSON endpoint and a resource to a model that I have in Laravel, boom, 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 done. I can throw that together in half an hour.
Yeah, but I don't think GraphQL is that much to get your head around.
I don't know. The
I mean,
syntax can be picky. Can be
once you
very
yeah,
picky.
that's it. Once you understand the syntax, once you understand it's it's a database query, right? You're querying a data store. I don't know. I loved it, man.
You
I absolutely
kind of
loved it.
you're querying a data store and getting an object back, and you can query the object before you get it back. So you can do these things that are very advanced, very cool. But you have to understand how it is you're dealing with the object in your head because you're manipulating data before you've even seen the data.
Hmm.
And not in the way that MySQL does. MySQL treats it as functions that wrap columns. But GraphQL treats it as methods on an object that you haven't retrieved yet.
Hmm.
So it's a similar syntax to SQL, but turned into an object language, which
I need to get back into it. I need to get back into GraphQL. I I did a deployment of it, and I think I even did a talk on it. Right? I feel like I did a
well,
talk on it.
check out my Lighthouse application because I built it over 3 months and it's self-working. It really walks you through bit by bit.
Is it an open repo?
Yeah, it's T Rideout slash Lighthouse.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
GitHub.com TRIDOT slash LIGHTHOUSE. And the whole thing it's a Laravel application, includes migrations and data seeders. So you just have to do uh, install. I believe I even copied over my app install code.
Throw it in
So
the
you,
show notes.
yeah, yeah, I'll throw that in the show notes. And it's pretty self-working. I'll edit it to have the actual presentation in there as well, so you can walk through the presentation step by step. But yeah, I'm still very proud of that repo. It's got a lot of handwritten code and very little copy paste from Stack Overflow.
Very little copy.
Yeah, and it has a security alert.
All right, man. And it has a security alert. Of course, everything has a security alert in GitHub now. That's the way it rolls.
There we go. I just merge it, confirm. There we go. No more security alerts. It's now the most secure repo on GitHub.
All right, man. All right, we need to wrap this up.
All right, it's been a pleasure.
I got feet to walk now to my bed. I don't have to lock up the office now before I leave. So that's nice.
You can just take the one wheel over too, just
I
straight
should.
from the office into bed.
I'm about there, man. I'm telling you. What's funny is every time I leave the office at whatever hour at night it is, midnight or whatever, there's like a handyman there, and I know he's got to think we're doing something shady, like because the whole complex, the whole office park is closed, and then here I come popping out of the one corner suite, the one suite that doesn't have any windows. I come popping. Well, it doesn't have any windows in the front. We have a couple of windows, but I come popping out of it, and he's locked down the courtyard and everything, and I'm unlocking everything to get out. He's got to think we're shady as hell, man.
I don't know. I mean, you and I were very big guys, but we're teddy bear big. We're not intimidating big.
Right? We are very teddy bear big. I like that.
I think
I
I
like that.
think when people see me late at night, they just think, "What's this nerd doing?"
I haven't been told. I've been told that I have a very unapproachable face. I mean, my wife loves me. She says she loves me, but you know,
So I've had the opposite. I've had people yell "nerd" at me just driving past me on the street.
really, that's
Yeah.
something that still happens.
Well, I had that Guy Fieri type button-up shirt with all the flames on it and anime characters at the time. So I mean, they weren't
Oh, I
wrong.
remember that day. I'm sorry, man. I didn't realize that was you.
I was carrying a
All right,
box
man.
of magic cards.
We need to call this. We need to. Hey, you come to PHP World. You going to show me how to play Magic?
Oh God, I could.
I,
Could bring some
I'm
cards.
told that's a thing, man. I don't know.
It's
I don't.
it is one of the grossest money sinks you'll ever discover.
Really?
Yeah.
The cards? How much do
Oh
those
yeah.
cards cost?
I think Black Lotus right now is $20,000.
What the hell's a Black Lotus? Is that a card or a card set?
It's a card. $28,000. Yeah.
But one card.
Yeah. Tap for 3 mana of any color.
I don't know what any of those words mean put together like that in a non-porn sense.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not even tap. It's play as an interrupt. Yeah. So.
All right,
Yeah,
maybe I don't
they're
need to learn
expensive.
it. Maybe I don't need to learn it. It sounds like there's like a lot of rules, a lot of words to put together. I
Well,
struggle with the English language.
that's the fun thing is that there's very few rules, except that every card has its own rules on it. So the rules change dramatically as you play. Yeah. Anyways, thank you
All right,
everybody for listening. Thank you to all of our Patreons.
episode
Eric
166.
Eric will get your lanyards and stuff out to you.
Yes, I will. I promise. Okay,
Uh,
this has been episode 166. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it
Keep it
ugly.
ugly.
Not doing any singing for you this time. You always make fun of me. Hey, brother. I'm gonna stop sharing with you though.
Right. I am gonna end my recording.
In my recording, I am offering to edit for you this weekend if you'd like.
Yeah, that would work out. Things have been things.
Okay. There is a outside chance. Don't tell the listeners because you know we are still streaming.
Don't tell them.
There's an outside chance we may get this show transcribed.
Oh, using that one app,
What app?
Descript.
Are you the one that turned me on to that?
No, you know what? That was turned on to us by Daryl.
Daryl, did you turn us on to Descript? Somebody else turned
I'm
me
sorry,
on to it.
Marcus.
Marcus turned me on to it today.
Yeah,
Marcus turned me on to it, and I gave it a quick test run, and I'm like, yeah, this will work. I like this. I mean, we're gonna probably use it from a more of a business perspective, but if
well, it's a paid
I was
service. You get like the first 20 minutes free.
right, and if the paid service is unlimited, which let's see here, the paid service is
It is.
it doesn't say what the limit is actually. Um, so yeah, I guess if it's unlimited, maybe I'll throw in a couple shows in there and get them transcribed, and our shows can be searchable. Which maybe we don't want. Maybe we don't want.
Well,
Might be a
the thing
bad
I
thing
had
there.
is it's a whole different editing interface, and it seems like it's nicer, except I just didn't have the time to learn it.
I'm not going to use it to edit. edit. That's somebody. Maybe again was Marcus was telling me he doesn't actually use it to edit. He just drags his finished product onto it and has it
Uh,
transcribe it.
I can also tell you that the accuracy trying to read our text in the 20-minute sample that I got was like 80% accurate.
Yeah, that's about what I saw.
It
Maybe
was
a little less.
pretty low.
Yeah. I did like the fact that you could identify who was talking and then it kind of took it from there and did a pretty good job at that.
Right, because it takes the multi-tracks and combines them into one, but it keeps the metadata for each one separate.
But no, I didn't even do that. I just pulled in a single MP3 file, which had already been compressed and brought down to one stream.
Oh, okay. See, I had it import all three streams, and it did a auto muxing of each one and color coded it so you could see who was talking.
Huh. Huh. I don't even see how you use this as editor though.
There's a tutorial on
Maybe.
it. I think it's a lot of mouse shortcuts.
Uh, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna use it for that. But yeah, I will be
Give me
signing up
one
for
sec.
this.
Hold on.
You got it, brother. 1 second. It was fun recording from home again. I have to say, it did like that. Been a while since you guys seen my crib. Anybody who knows me knows I am a baseball fan, and more specifically, I am actually a national. I'm from the Maryland, D.C. area, and was super excited at the wild card game. If you saw the wild card game, that's some of the best baseball out there. Is the wild card game with I don't remember who they beat now. Jeez, oh flip, that's horrible. Who did they beat? It wasn't Cleveland, right? No, it couldn't have been Cleveland. They're not in the National League. Um, oh my, Milwaukee. That's who they beat, right? The Brewers. Yeah. They beat the Brewers. So, anyways, they started their series with Dodgers tonight, and they lost their first game. So, boo hoo. Right. What do you got going on, man? Anything? Anything else you want to talk about?
You know, shit with the kids.
Shit.
That's teenagers are just more insane than I expected.
Yep.
Um, what was the other thing I was going to show you? Well, did you see my link to the Black Lotus?
No. We're still streaming, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I'm buying this. I'm buying this year service here.
Ear service? Oh,
The
the
year
year of
service for
Descript.
whatever. Yeah, script. Ugh. This is the problem with having a business credit card. You, I do this shit now. John's gonna get the bill and be like, "What is this?" I'm gonna be like, "That's service we use. You know, come on, John. Like if you're on the podcast, you know we use this service. Come on, man. All right,
What is
what's your
this?
Lotus? Where's your Lotus link at? I don't see a link. Where you
Slack.
put it?
Slack.
Oh dear God. New menu open. Really? What is a Lotus card? Is it like gold or something? It just looks like a regular playing card.
Yeah, it's one of the first cards from the set. The
Rare
like
key R. What does R mean?
rare. Yeah, it was one of the first cards. Well, it was a card in the first set released by them called Alpha. The set was called
Mm-hmm.
Alpha, and it was before they had figured out how to properly balance things in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so overpowered and so rare that the price just got enormous.
So what's the benefit of paying $28,000 for it? I'm just curious. Are you
It,
still able to use it in games?
yeah, so in some formats, I mean, people don't really. It's more of a collector's piece, but in some formats you can still play it, and it can lead to a first turn win. Like you can win the whole game on the first turn before the other player gets a chance.
Hmm.
There have been a
So
couple
so you don't
cards like
buy
that.
cards separately normally though, don't? I mean, I see them sold in sets. Don't you just go buy a set of cards?
Yeah, you buy either packs or boxes of packs, but then you can also go to a store and buy individual cards from the store
Mm-hmm.
or sell your individual cards to the store.
All right.
It's
So
very common.
if I get Amazon.com and I see Magic the Gathering, how much is a box of cards?
I think it's like 120 now.
Really? God damn. Yeah, I don't
But I
think
mean,
this
that's
is
not
something
gonna. If
you
you
get
want to
into.
build a competitive deck, you're looking at 4 or 5 boxes.
I don't know. They're $32. Boxes. A box. Magic the Gathering core set 2020 bundle 10 booster pack accessory factory sealed
Yeah, that's 10
$32.
booster packs. A quote unquote box is I think 50 booster packs.
Jesus. All right. I don't know. Get involved with this. This doesn't. I still don't understand what it is. This is like the first time I went to a pot store. I just started buying stuff because I didn't know what I needed. Now I got a bunch of weed. I don't know what to do with it.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. What is the law in Virginia?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't take anything with me.
Yeah, can you believe the Trump stuff today?
Dude,
And then
it,
yesterday, and then the day
I can't
before?
I can't believe we're living through this. And so the thing I was going to say, and I'm glad we didn't go on this tangent on the show, is that I fancy myself like a balanced person. Like I'm always willing to listen to the other side. And so occasionally I listen to Fox News to see because they're clearly supporters of it. And just the chaos that's going on. First thing, the fact that and I honestly listen to them trying not to be judgmental because I want to understand their side, but they don't have a side. Like their side is this paranoid rant that just echoes what Trump says. And not only
Right.
that,
It's
but
a total echo chamber.
it's like any other news station, like any other news station that Fox and Trump will call fake news now, that they should be ashamed of themselves. I listen to, and they report the news the way I expect the news to be reported. I mean, they're saying, okay, here are the facts, here's what we know, here's what was said, here's what's being done, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. All right, well, what's the Fox News's side of it? And they're like, okay, so that crooked Biden, he and his shady son. It's like, what is with all this commentary? Like, why are you talking like Trump? Like,
Well,
don't insult.
I was telling my friend the other day that the interesting thing about Fox News is that they report on what their opinion articles say. So typically, like you'll go to a news site and they'll differentiate between analysis, opinion, editorial, and journalism. And
Mhm.
that's a very important definition that's existed for a very long time. But what Fox does is they'll have one of their talking heads say something crazy, and then they'll write a news article about the crazy thing that the talking head said.
Mm.
So they can report it as if it's news. And they'll just, I mean, like, it's just so bizarre that
I can't believe this world we live in. I mean, I just can't believe it. And
Yeah.
it has gone so far off the rails, so far off the rails. It's like, how can anybody with half a brain honestly be supporting this guy? Like, when they
Well,
sit
and
there and say
my friend,
they're very they're very clear about how illegal it is to try to get other countries involved with our election process. They're very clear on that. And so he starts to say, well, my phone conversations were perfect. We didn't have it. We didn't talk about that. That was not. They were perfect conversations. Then comes on the White House lawn and says they should be investigated. Not only should they investigate him, but China should investigate him too. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. It's just nonstop. I just don't understand it.
well, my friend posted a picture on Facebook of John Wayne dressed up as a ranger, and it says, "In my day, you are either pro-America or a commie. You can call yourself liberal, progressive, or socialist, but you're still nothing more than a rotten commie." And I'm like, dude, all your friends are liberal, all of them, except for like two. Like, how can you be so myopic? How can you be so like, if my idea doesn't conform with your idea, I'm a commie? Like, also defending yourself with the what was it called? The trials?
Salem witch trials?
McCarthy trials.
Okay.
Like aligning your political ideal with McCarthy killed a lot of people who were innocent. Like, I just I've asked people lately. I've asked friends of mine. They're like, "Well, I'm a Trump supporter," and I ask them like, "How?" Like, not to judge. I'm not judging in any way. I just want to understand, how can you support someone who outright does these things that are counter to American ideals and
Mm-hmm.
anti-constitutional? And like, the best answer I get, the only answer I get is, well, he's not a politician. He speaks his mind. And I'm like, that's not a qualification for president. That's a qualification for like PTA, and you'd have been fired already.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And that's the thing. It's like if anybody else had done half the things he's done, they they would have run him out of office years ago.
yeah,
Oh
I saw
man.
I saw a quote that said, when Donald Trump said he could shoot somebody in the middle of New York
New
City
York City,
streets,
get away with it.
he
Yep.
wasn't he wasn't complimenting you, he was insulting you.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is, I think he could at this point. You'd have uh, you'd have his little gremlin lawyer next to him, ex mayor, and say, "Oh,
Well, dude, Giuliani's going to jail. Like, he is so
he got
screwed.
it. He stepped in front of that bullet. You think? You think
Oh
he
my God, yes.
for what?
Treason.
You think?
Oh yeah.
God, I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that.
Here's the issue: is that this conversation that Trump had with the Ukrainian president, and also Russia, and also China, and like three other countries, the actual conversation he had is, I can't talk about it here. I'm going to send Giuliani over to talk to you. And Giuliani
Yeah.
has gone over to those countries. And when they start to investigate what Giuliani has done, they're going to find that it's absolutely treason. Like, he went there with the intent of usurping the American election system. Like, the whole purpose. And now the attorney general's involved in it, and then it turns out that Pence was involved in it too.
Oh, yeah, kids had to have loved that, right?
Right.
Pulling
And then
into
there's
that.
there's the other whistleblower report about somebody in the IRS that Trump appointed that started deleting records of his tax returns.
What? I haven't heard about this.
Yeah, it was last week. It was in the middle of everything else last week. There was another whistleblower report that someone in the IRS was hiding Trump's tax returns so that they couldn't be recovered.
Oh, it's crazy, man.
We might have to use some of this Patreon fund to get me a new microphone.
What's wrong with your mic?
Huh?
What's wrong with your mic?
It's the setup is getting very burdensome because it's not a USB microphone, so I have to have a phantom power adapter for it. So like the whole kit for the microphone is this giant box of stuff. Plus, because it's a 12-volt line, the cable for it is like a 1/4 inch thick and doesn't want to move correctly.
Yeah, all sorts of issues, don't you, man? I guess I should stop the stream at some point.
Yeah,
Where's
so thank you everybody
OBS?
for listening.
Thank you, everybody. OBS.